Hello everyone, today I'll be just doing a commentary race on ACC or Assetto Corsa Competizione in the GT3 around Spa. I think it's a 20-minute race. So this race happened a while ago, maybe a month and a half ago, but I enjoyed doing the commentary in my last video, so thought I'd give it another go. So again, a 20-minute race here. I'll just be commentating over what I was thinking in the moment and what I was attempting to do. So let's really dive into it. So again, I'm starting from the back here. I don't believe I qualified, and the aim is to make my way up onto the podium in this race. So very slow start here. I always like to hang back, especially if I'm starting from the back, just to stay out of any contact or any incidents like there was there at the beginning of that race, going up the top of Eau Rouge, past that car and past another car which had spun out at the top of Eau Rouge there. So we made up lots of positions already and we haven't really had to do anything. I look quite far back from the cars ahead, but that really shouldn't matter given that they should all bunch up and we should be able to catch up quite quickly here. Here's a McLaren on the outside. I'm trying to be really careful of their rejoin and stick all the way to the left hand side of the track just to make sure I don't just wash wide and have a collision with them. Here going, I just lose the rear slightly there, had to recover it up, downshifted a bit too early into first gear. It just meant I locked the rear brakes. Too much downshifting from the engine there. And now going into Puon here for the first time. I see there's cars up ahead. I don't quite have the tire temperature in my tires at the moment. My temperature's quite low. I think this race was at 30-31 degrees track temperature, so you've got to start your pressures quite low so they can build into that optimal range of 26-27 degrees Celsius. But I've already caught up to this pack of 3 cars ahead here, and I'm just trying to get on the power as early as I can. Unfortunately, run a bit wide, braking just as we get to the curb here, downshifting into second, and trying to hold it flat here through this final right-hander onto the back straight. I lose the rear end slightly, but the Porsche ahead of me got a slightly worse exit, so I'm going to be able to slipstream up behind them and hopefully make a move into the bus stop chicane. Again, I'm playing on Australian servers here, so I usually have 300 ping, so I like to keep a safe distance. You'll see other drivers get much closer, but with the ping that I have, I like to keep a safer distance. As I make a lunge down the inside here, switching back late, I leave the space on the inside, and he just comes back. I didn't really commit hard enough on the brakes then. I could have broken a lot later. I chose not to, so I didn't make any contact, but the Porsche keeps the spot ahead here. Again, I'm looking down the inside, trying to throw off his braking point, and that forces him to brake way too late, much later than he needed to there. So just by showing my nose on the inside, making him think that I might dive bomb him, I definitely wasn't going to. I was way too far back. It forced him to brake a lot later, and I was able to make up an easy position here. Flat through Eau Rouge, nearly ended in the wall there. I took way too much curb through the middle there, it pushed me really wide. There's been another collision here at the top. I've avoided that. 2 McLarens again making contact, and again I will have the HUD hopefully for the next commentary I do. I just don't quite have it yet. I'll get that all properly set up for the next race I commentate over. But we've made up loads of positions so far. I should really add a position counter, but maybe 10 or 12. And we're starting last in this race, so maybe 28th, 30th. So we've made up a huge amount of positions and we're well on our way to trying to get onto that podium fight. Downshifting into second, we've hooked up that apex really nicely. Unlike, I believe that is a Ferrari ahead who was running wide there through the exit of No Name. Again, braking nice and early, rolling the speed through the left-hander. I forgot the corner name. We'll move past that. Puon? No. Yes. And then piff paff, a dive down the inside. We get the move done. A very strong move there. I was quite late on the brakes. Was able to get all the way alongside, and that is another position made up. Downshifting into second, using that inside curve to help rotate the car. And now we're looking to be flat all the way to the bus stop chicane. So again, here, I think I have the pace of the cars around me. I think I should be a lot quicker. So I'm aiming just to try and keep no mistakes, keep my driving clean, and then really just keep making my way through the field and not getting any damage. I can't stress this enough. So this is just an online public lobby race. There's safety rating of maybe 70 to enter it. There was nothing really too special about it, so anyone could have entered this race. So I think I had the pace over most of the cars in this field, maybe apart from the top 1 or 2. And so I know I'm quicker, so I'm just trying to keep it mistake-free and make my way up, and most importantly, not get any damage, because that just completely takes the fun out of starting from the back in a race like this. So again, going up Eau Rouge for the 3rd time, I believe this is. Car coming out of the pits, but we'll clear that by a long while. Holding it flat, and I see these cars getting nice and close up ahead, really bunching up together. So I think I should be able to make a move, hopefully, especially if they fight through the chicane up the top here, through the Lecombe chicane. Braking just before the curb there. Down into 2nd, hooking it up. You want to get those left side front tyres over the curb on the left. Like, I completely, unlike what I managed to do, then ran a bit wide, got a bit of oversteer through the mid corner. Again, braking here, just at the curb on the exit, really trying to roll some speed through. I've run a bit wide, but I should be able to V off the corner quite nicely here. Early upshift. I shift up to 3rd, really get that nose in, unlike the McLaren ahead. I've got to slow down a bit on the exit, get off the throttle so I don't just run into the back of him. But that's alright, we're nice and close now. Running a bit wide, the front is just understeering. Too much speed there on the entrance, just forced myself to go wide, and we dropped back a bit from McLaren ahead, but I'm usually quite decent through Piff Paff here. We close up, you got to try and hook up this nice curb on the left so you can get on the power nice and early. And here I want to brake earlier than he does and just try and square off the corner so I can get on the power earlier than the McLaren ahead. I'm really close. I should be able to hold it flat through the exit onto the back straight here. And the McLaren's struggled with understeer, run a bit wide, and this should be the move made at this stage. Hopefully I should have the overspeed on the McLaren here. And yes, he backs out going through the fast left-hander, and we made up another position going into the bus stop chicane, braking just after the white line on the ground, getting the front of the car in, switching back here, and getting on the power as early as possible. So, again, this race is still 20 minutes long. Each lap's around 2 minutes, 20 seconds. So you'll get a decent amount of laps in, around 10 laps. And again, I'm just trying to close up to the car ahead of me here. So I haven't posted in a while. I've been playing other games in the meantime. I've been still posting my daily TikToks, which on YouTube Shorts, on TikTok, as well as on Instagram. If you guys have any interest in checking that out, it's just F1 News, F1's Opinions. So I keep up those daily uploads there, but I just haven't really been playing that much ACC or racing games recently. But I thought now I would got the willpower to go and record a voiceover for this ACC race I did a month and a half ago. And so I hope you enjoy it. Again, I really love playing sim racing games. It's so, for someone that really enjoys racing, I love go-karting, and didn't get into it at that early age. I love going rental karting. I think everyone that follows F1 would have loved to drive an F1 car, but unfortunately just didn't get into it from that early age. Sim racing is a much cheaper, still relatively expensive though, when you have to get a sim rig, but much cheaper way of experiencing that thrill of racing at home on a cheaper budget. I think it's really great. I use a G502 entry-level wheel. It's around $450, I believe. And whilst that sounds expensive, I would highly recommend the purchase if you're wanting to get into sim racing, F1 games, iRacing, ACC, Assetto Corsa, anything really. The new Le Mans game is coming out with WEC as the McLaren ahead makes a mistake, and that is another position made up. I'm going to run wide on the exit there as my line got thrown off by that McLaren ahead. And now we will be chasing down, I believe it's another McLaren, for basically the rest of the race, I believe. And I do manage to catch up to him eventually. But again, going back to the previous topic, I'd highly recommend getting a wheel if you're interested in sim racing. It's such a great investment. It's great for if people want to come over, they can use it. It's a great party thing, and it's so much better than using a pad or a controller. You just get so much more feel out of it, and I think so much more enjoyment out of the game. So yeah, I would love to branch out into doing some streaming if I have the time as well, of just these online ACC races. I don't really have that much time to do specific league racing each week, but just if I feel like going on F1 F123 doing some time trials or just doing some online open lobbies like this on ACC. I'd love to let you guys know if you'd be happy to watch some streams like that. But anyway, getting back to the race at hand here, I believe in that I do have the pace of the McLaren in front. I'm a bit quicker, but to catch up, I've got to be pretty faultless going on into the rest of the race here. So braking at the 100-meter board just before the beginning of the curb, getting the hook up on the right-hand curb, getting those front left tyres over the curb on the left so you get more traction, more purchase, running a bit wide, early upshift into third, and braking just again at the edge of the rumble strips or the curbs, shifting down into first, really trying not to put too much throttle on mid-corner and getting too much mid-corner understeer. Again, rolling the car through the apex in a GT3 car there. You really want to get, I find it much better to get on the brake a bit earlier and carry more minimum speed through, especially through a corner like P1 here, where I've managed to just keep the car in, managed to limit the understeer. I find that slowing it down a bit more limits your mid-corner understeer, so you can get a much better exit in comparison to carrying more speed in. As you can see, the McLarens run really wide through the first part of pit-pat there, and I'm well and truly in the hunt for this position now. Braking into second gear from third there, getting on the throttle as early as possible, trying to use all the curb on the exit and nice and flat here, keeping just a tyre on that curb so we don't abuse track limits. And we are closing up to this McLaren ahead quite rapidly. I think the car ahead is also staying at an equal distance, so we've got a really interesting fight on our hands here. Why we aren't that close on track, it's more just a mental battle at this stage about not making any mistakes, braking as late as you can, and just trying to keep that gap so you can't. So if I'm the McLaren ahead, I'm trying to keep that gap so that I can't make a move on him, and if I'm myself in this instance, I'm trying to get close enough where I can put more pressure on him and hopefully force him into mistakes. So braking at the 100-meter board here for turn 1, really trying to hook up that entry, getting on the throttle as early as possible. I've drifted a bit wide. I find that the two corners I struggle with most are probably turn 1, La Source, and then the exit of the bus stop chicane. I find that this, I think it's the Aston Martin that I'm driving, really struggles with that power in the lower rev range. So I just can't get off the corner that well. I can brake a lot later into the bus stop chicane than the McLaren ahead, but I struggled for that traction, especially on the run into the Camel Straight. So I've closed up quite a lot now, getting the slipstream, braking at the 100-meter board here. And I know I should be quicker through this middle sector, so what I'm trying to do is just hit all my apexes, use all that inside curve there, unsettle the car a bit. I've taken a much better line, get on the throttle much earlier here, and we're looking all the way over the back of this McLaren here, going into the middle section. I've broken a bit late, but hooking up the inside curb again, trying to get on the throttle as early as possible, shifting up into third, downshifting, hitting that inside apex curb, and we're giving chase now into P1. Again, I like to brake basically in between those two orange markers just as the curb starts. A bit too early on the throttle though, and that's forced myself some mid-corner understeer, which is awful in GT3 cars. They just throw you so wide. It just feels like the car just won't respond, won't turn. He's run a bit wide through the first exit of Piff Path then, but he's still keeping a reasonable distance to the car ahead. I'm looking to roll this minimum speed through this right-hander on the throttle nice and early. Got a bit of a tank slapper on, but we saved it using a bit of the inside curb here. It really doesn't settle the inside unsettle the car that much, so I feel like you can use that inside curb quite effectively there, and we are well within the slipstream range of this McLaren ahead. Going through Blanchimont, really trying to just, I'm going to look to the inside here just to try throw him off a bit with his braking line, and he's covered the inside quite early there, run very wide, and now I'm all over the back of him trying to get the switch back here. But this is what I mean. I think that Aston just struggles a bit with that low RPM really drive that you can get off the corners. So I'm going to brake late here and try and get a switch back on him. Got to be really careful not to run into him on the exit though and have a big collision, so I let off the throttle a bit there. But we've made the move stick, we've got past the McLaren, and now we just have to try and defend from him, because he's going to get a nice slipstream on me going up the Camel Straight here through a Rouge and Radion. We keep it pinned, and I think I've got a bad enough run there. He's had to lift slightly, he dropped back a bit, and I should be able to hold him off now. I don't think he'll have the overspeed to make a move on me into the DIVEBOMB chicane up the top here. Late braking, just trying to stay away there. So I've run a bit wide on that first entry, but that's because I wanted to brake as late as I possibly could to make sure the McLaren couldn't attempt any dive bomb move on me at all. Braking at the rumble strips again here, down into second. I've locked the inside front slightly. The McLaren nearly runs into the back of me, but I've got a nice exit, got on the power quite early. Into third, braking, later downshift here, just to help keep the car under control on your way in. A later downshift will give you much more stability on the entry, but if you still have that downshift, you should be able to get that engine braking to help rotate the car quite nicely. Now, I've gotten a bit of a gap to the McLaren behind me now, so I'm feeling confident that I should be able to catch up to this McLaren further ahead now, as long as, again, I hit my lines, as that McLaren runs very wide, so have I, but not into the gravel, and we live to fight another day. So, I drive a lot of the F1 game in comparison to ACC. I really just drive the GT3s in ACC, and I drive on the F1 23 game. And the difference between how you're meant to drive these cars and the F1 game is really funny, actually. It's completely different. You've got to be so much more careful on the throttle on the F1 game. I know it's not a full simulation game, it's more of a simcade, given it's trying to appeal to the more general audience, not just more full-on sim races. But you have to be so careful on the throttle in the F1 game. Whilst with these GT3 cars, they have some traction control, even though you're running it very low. So I got it on TC3 at the moment, which is very low. I think it goes up to 10 or 12. You can smash the throttle on the exit of the corner, and you're just not going to lose the rear end. Whilst in the F1 23 game, if you try and go anywhere near full throttle, I play with no assist. So with no assist on, the rear tires are just on a spin, and you're going to lose the rear end completely and the corners. But then the lines you want to take through more medium speed corners and slower speed corners completely differ as well. In a GT3 car like this, you want to V off your corner. So you're taking more, especially in slower speed corners like hairpins, you're taking, I've run a bit wide here. I've still managed to get the car hopefully slowed down. Still running a bit wide, but I managed to flick it back across here. In like those hairpin corners, you want to V off the corner. So you want to take more entrance speed, run a bit deeper at the midpoint, so you're missing the apex, but you're able to rotate that car a lot more and get on the throttle earlier compared to if you took a more traditional U-line. And in a car with less downforce like a GT3, that's incredibly beneficial, as you're minimizing how much time you're really turning. But in an F1 car, you've got a lots more downforce, you've got the aerodynamic downforce, you've got probably more grip from the bigger tires. You can carry a lot more minimum speed through, so it's much more efficient there to U off the corner most of the time, because you'll gain more lap time from just U-ing the corner, carrying a higher minimum speed than you would from having a lower minimum speed and then V'ing off the corner. So that's just what I find really fascinating about switching between games and the difference you have between driving a GT3 car and an F1 car. In simulation, the F2 car is much more similar to the GT3 car in the fact that you can get on the throttle a lot more aggressively without the fear of really spinning up those rear tires and losing the car on exit. But you have that trade-off of having less downforce, so you have to V off the corner more in an F2 car than you would in an F1 car. But anyway, back to the race ahead. I am catching up to this McLaren, who's catching up to the McLaren ahead. We're getting into a bit of a train now, and I'm closing up so much to the bus stop chicane, but losing up a lot of time on the exit here. And that's just the issue I have with the Aston that I was speaking about earlier. I believe I'm also getting caught by the car behind me. I think the McLaren is catching us. Again, if I had the HUD on, this would be a lot easier, but unfortunately, I just don't have the HUD on for this race. Again, they'll be rectified for future. But here, I'm just trying to get a nice run through Rouge and Radeon. I decide to have a track limits warning then to carry more speed. You get 3 strikes in an ACC race, and on your 4th, you get a drive-through penalty. So, I'm just trying to get close to this McLaren. I know I'm better through the middle sector, and I think I've got to try and make a move into the bus stop chicane, given that I really get a poor exit out of La Source. So I'll struggle to make a move into the Lequelme chicane. But we're nice and close here, and now the trick is just to keep nice and close until we get onto the back straight. So rolling the speed through, trying to carry a bit more speed so I can V off the corner, get on the throttle quite well. Early upshift into second, into third, braking early, late downshift, getting that speed on the exit, getting on the throttle, and I got on the throttle much earlier than the McLaren. I'm going to show my nose a bit here, but back out. 2 downshifts into third gear, touch the inside curb there. Probably shouldn't. It unsettles the car a bit and pushes you wide, but we're still nice and close to the McLaren ahead. Braking on the curb into second here. We're hugging that apex much nicer than the McLaren is in front. And then try hook up that inside curb. He runs a bit wide again on the exit. I get a bit of a tank slapper on, but we save it. Braking at the marker, and we are nice and close to this McLaren now. And we're going to get it nice. Oh no, but we've lost the rear slightly. It's okay. We kept it under control. Had to back out there not to get a track limits warning because we didn't want one there. But we're still nice and close to this McLaren ahead. Maybe still too far back to make a move, but let's wait and see what happens as we follow the McLaren through. Blanchimon showed the nose again. Going for a dive on the McLaren here. Very late. Bit of contact up front, a bit wide. Go over that inside curb. Do we make it stick? That's the checkered flag. Do we make it stick? No. Again, that was a bit of a last lap kamikaze dive bomb into the bus stop chicane there. Sorry I didn't realize it was the last lap again with the no hard. It's very difficult. I was probably a bit late on the brakes. I went very deep. A bit over the top, but I knew it was the last lap, last corner in just this open lobby, so I went for it. The guy didn't seem to mind that we didn't make any real contact. The issue was me going then back over the sausage curb. I should just cut the chicane and gave up the place there. I apologized to him after for the small amount of contact. It was all good. It was a tough, hard battle, and I think deservingly he came out on top. But I hope you guys enjoyed that post-race commentary here. I really enjoy doing these types of videos, so if you want to see any more racing games, if you have any recommendations in regards to F1 23 time trials, if you want me to do a career mode, please let me know below. But hopefully, fingers crossed, I can be a bit more consistent. I'll get another post-race commentary out for you guys soon. Thank you very much for tuning in, and have a great rest of your day.